Hi, this is Damien Marie AtHope, and I'm an Axiological Atheist. And I am here with Haley. Haley,
Hi.
could you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and what kind of atheist you are?
Um, well, I guess in the best possible way I could describe it, I guess you could call me sort of a de facto atheist. It's a bit hard to place labels on for me. It's just atheism. I don't believe in religion. I don't believe in the concept of it, gods, supernatural, woo, stuff like that.
So, could you explain when you say you don't believe in supernatural woo? What is woo? What do you mean by what is supernatural to you?
Um, well, you could put under the banner of that whole category, you could put ghosts, anything that isn't in the natural realm, that can't be demonstrated or things of that nature. So I guess like ghosts, pseudoscientific beliefs like acupuncture, things that don't have a whole lot of scientific backing, and things that you can point to demonstrate them to show that they're doing what some people might claim that they do.
Like psychic healing?
Right, psychic healing, yeah, telekinesis, and there's a lot of that out there. If you watch A&E or other channels that have sort of devolved from learning channels into anything's possible type of
Yeah.
garbage.
Yeah, I know that. And to me, about speaking of the things like ghosts and stuff, I know that some people think that's those kind of shows or beliefs are not, harming because what does it harm? But I know my wife still likes to watch, even though she's an atheist. She watches Ghost Adventures or something like that.
Yeah, Ghost Hunters International, stuff like that.
Anyway, she watches stuff like that. But anyways, I saw her watching. She always tells me to shut up because I can't help but like while I'm watching critique the thing the whole time.
Yeah.
But she was watching one, and it showed that they had a guy, and he said that he thought the house had a demon, and they said, yeah, it does, or it could have a demon, and the house was possessed. Well, he said the reason he thought this is for 3 months he planned to kill his wife and family.
Okay.
And then after they decided to leave the house because it was demon possessed and making him think all these, thoughts, and he bought weapons and stuff, and he was planning on killing them. And then, but he says he's been 3 years and he's away from the house, but he still thinks about killing her, and it's hard to get rid of those demons. And I'm thinking, you need counseling. Oh my God, you've got to be kidding me! But the show said, yeah, it's that demon stuff, and I mean, right there, to me, it's no longer for fun.
Yeah.
There's somebody who's telling you, I think about killing my wife and family, and you're saying, that's okay, it's not you, it's demons.
Yeah, I mean, and when people point to a lot of those kinds of beliefs, they come at it from well, I don't know, so it must be this. Sort of that argument from ignorance that, well, I don't know what that was that made the noise, therefore ghosts.
Yeah.
It works the same across a lot of different planes, whether you're talking about religion or, supernatural beliefs of that sort. It goes across a very wide spectrum.
Yeah, so I mean, I agree. That's why I brought you on the show, and what I like about you is that you don't just focus on atheism, because I think that atheism. I mean, I love atheism. I love talking about it, but I think one of the unique things about you also, go after the other kind of woo that I think supports theistic beliefs in general.
Well, I mean, you'll see so many people arguing for the things that I'm arguing against that there's no counter movement to it. So I think it's important that there's at least another side to it. I mean, when you Google a lot of these things...
Real quick, can you tell me what things you said you go against? You didn't say what they were.
Sure. So one thing in particular, kind of my pet issue as of late, has been the debate over genetically modified. You still there, Damien?
Yeah, it's someone
Okay.
else. Someone else came in, and I just muted him so that didn't make a sound.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. So I'll kind of start over again with that. It's my skepticism lately has been geared a lot towards the debate over genetically modified organisms,
So
vaccination.
GMOs, right?
Yeah, GMOs, commonly referred to as GMOs. It's one of those things where there's a lot of activism on the other side of it. You know, a lot of people for labeling campaigns and sort of this innate fear of the technology, and that's just based on the information that's available to us and the research. It just does not appear that way to me. It isn't that way. It's one of those things where the burden of proof that it's a danger kind of lies on these people that are trying to assert that it is, and there's nothing really tangible to hold on to with that position. So,
And so you say there's nothing tangible. Is there a reason that you know that nothing's tangible, or are you just
well,
having?
yeah, I mean, if you go to the scientific consensus on the matter, there's nothing that they can really point you in the direction of going to even look at without first, you'll get to the source and go, okay, wait a minute, this is natural news, so there's a vested organic uh, interest with that. So, I mean, it's kind of one of those things where it's painted as, well, it's money versus truth, but I see it more as a money versus money issue, and then in there you have to kind of ferret out the information.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point, in that natural things usually are like a holistic and all that are usually more expensive. Like if you go to Whole Foods as opposed to Walmart, I mean, there certainly is a big difference in price.
Well, I mean, if you go to any grocery store, you'll see that certified organic milk is at least, at least 20%, 30%, sometimes 50% more. Uh, and that's fine, if that's the way that you choose to eat, that's great. I can see how a lot of that stuff might promote eating more fruits and vegetables, things of that nature. But it's when you start the tactics of fear mongering that I kind of shy away. When you say that there are inherent dangers to the food, uh, show me where is that evidence that you can demonstrate that this is true. And of course, they'll go back to the whole big tobacco and DDT and DDT, which was a chemical used for a long time, I believe, during the 40s and 50s. Later on, with more scientific research, we found out that it was not something you want to be washing your dog with. But I believe that this is very different because of the amount of years of scientific research and study, and it's not like tobacco, because you can look back at a lot of the activities of the tobacco companies in the 90s, and you can see there are memos going around, hey, we're trying to deceive people, we know this is dangerous. Not the case with this particular subject. So
Yeah.
people conflate the two things, and oh, it's bad, and someone's making money off of it, and everybody's making money off of it. So
Yeah, I think that it's some part is like I think it goes back to the same kind of a supernatural beliefs in general, with the war of religion and science. I agree there's a money aspect, but I think also it's like they feel like it's this religion and holistic and spiritualism, and then there's these evil scientists out to turn us all into cyborgs and turn our food into frankenfood and
yeah,
control our kids and
yeah, and I grew up in a family where I have a mother who is sort of into all of the sort of, I'm not religious but I'm spiritual, and Frankenfood, and it was almost like the worst of the left and the right married and made my mom. All of the sort of pseudosciency beliefs that tend to come from a lot of my more liberal-minded friends, and but I watch Fox News type of
yeah,
upbringing for me.
that's
So
different.
yeah, she was into the whole Wiccan thing, and I guess there was some pushback on my part to kind of try to understand things a little bit better. And well, why do you believe that? What's your reasoning? So.
Speaking of belief, was there a time that you were a believer and then you became an atheist, or how did that work?
No, I was actually raised in a pretty secular fashion, and maybe I could call it just devoid of religious talk whatsoever. My parents were very young. They were 17 when they had me, so they weren't really super developed people in the sense of, well, we're very religious, and not that young people can't be, but um, that came later with my mom when she found the whole New Age, craze. But
What age was that?
that my mom found all that?
Yeah.
Probably middle school for me. I was 12 or 13. So I had kind of already been raised without religious belief. So my mom actually, I think I can point to one time in my life when I was like maybe 9 or 10 when we were having really hard times with my mom being a single mother. And she's like, let's pray to God. And, but it was very abstract. It wasn't, she didn't actually believe it. She just said it to try it out. So, like trying on a different pair of shoes for the day, I'm not sure. But no, definitely I wasn't raised religiously. So, yeah, I moved. My progression in life has been steadily towards atheism.
So we say steadily towards atheism. Does that mean there was a time where you weren't sure, or you were agnostic, or what does that mean?
I think that when you're little, especially, and you grow up in a Christian-centric or religious-centric society, you're always going to have a question. I mean, a lot of it comes from years of inquiry and sort of examining things and seeing where you're at. But yeah, of course there was a question for a little while. I remember when I was in middle school, as soon as my mom started doing the whole Wiccan thing, I kind of took that up, that whole mantle, because look, my mom's doing it and that's cool and it's kind of rebellious and it's counterculture. And so I took up the whole Wiccan thing for a little while, and Wiccan, pagan, and kind of an amalgamation of the two. And then I actually started reading a lot of satanic literature, which kind of led me into atheism. I mean, after all, modern Satanism is just atheism with a little bit of satire thrown in. So.
You're talking about LaVey Satanism?
Yeah, I am. Yeah,
because there's not one kind of like.
No, but I would say most people that put themselves under the banner of Satanism and go out and speak about it, that you hear about, they're usually referring to LaVeyan Satanism and not devil worship. I mean, it's out there, don't get me wrong, but you don't see a lot of it.
Right. So you said you're into it. Can you explain what the difference is?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess and it's very nuanced, but the basic premise of LaVeyan Satanism is it's just fucking with Christians. It's satire. It's kind of a pseudo kind of libertarian philosophy in some ways. It's very self-centric, individualistic, which I kind of moved away from that aspect of it. But I read the Satanic Bible when I was probably 14 or 15, and that informed a lot of my without the dogmas that it has, of course. It has ritualistic stuff that I kind of brushed aside. But it taught me to question the sort of norm of American religion, which would be Christianity, I guess. So that kind of was a springboard for me in terms of starting to think critically about the world and philosophy. So that was definitely a springboard for me.
And then when did you fully become an atheist and let Satanism go?
Oh gosh, I would say right after that, so 14, 15. I never really embraced Satanism. I kind of just took it as, oh, this is interesting, and I see what the underlying message is, and so I'm going to go out and live my life under the assumption that there's nobody watching over me and, informing my decisions and thoughts, and that is uniquely my own. So,
So
let that.
are you just an atheist now, or are you anti-theist or anti-religionist also?
I would say that I'm anti-theist in the sense that I see a lot of things going on in the world, and with the major religions, with every religion, but mostly the major religions, mostly Christianity and Islam right now in modern times. Um, Things that I don't like, I'm very much for church-state separation, keeping that separate, the Establishment Clause, and I think that's very important to a society. So yeah, that stuff definitely matters to me, and yeah, so I guess I could definitely say that I'm also anti-theist. Yes. So I guess some people call that new atheism, right? So
Well, I don't really consider myself a new atheist. I mean,
yeah,
because to me, I'm also an axiological atheist is a value driven, so it's a different.
yeah,
He
yeah,
values God and religion, so it doesn't. If you, in other words, if you take a few religions out, to me, it doesn't really make that much different. Because
yeah,
inherently, to me, one of the biggest things I have a problem with religion, all religion, is it instills self-shame and usually instills some kind of a disrespect or hate for others. And
yeah,
I find both of those things to be, to me, morally repugnant. And so, for me personally, I don't like any of it.
yeah. And I mean, though I do believe that it's inherently human nature to do to further some of the causes that religion is sort of rallying against, whether it be gay rights, human rights, civil rights, whatever you want to call it. However, the difference being that uh, there are specific religious dogmas involved in their holy books that would encourage this type of behavior. Whereas with atheists, it's kind of like herding cats. There's no doctrine that goes out and tells you X, Y, and Z is acceptable, slavery is acceptable. So that's definitely a major difference there between the two. It's
But
not.
speaking about atheism and about having no dogma, I think it's interesting, though, how I agree with you, there is no dogma of atheists, but I've actually been told by atheists, atheism is not about talking about GMOs, so I shouldn't talk about them. Or,
Mm,
in other words, don't connect those two. But
yeah. Well,
or atheism really is a disbelief in gods. Don't connect it to science. I mean,
Well, look, I mean, in a literal sense of the term, yes, they're correct in saying that the only thing that we have in common as atheists is that we do not believe in gods. That is correct, but I don't think that that does anything for us as a community. I don't think that that furthers our, well, I don't want to say our ends because they're all different, but that type of community is not the community that I fit into, personally. Because I don't want to be around people just because they don't believe in a particular god or in gods. That's not a selling point for me with a community, you know?
for me, I always say that in general, though, I think that most people that are an atheist are not because they just woke up one day and said, you know what, I think today I'm going to be an atheist. Usually it involves reason and evidence. It usually involves some kind of a hypothesis, some kind of conclusion, some side type of evidence to back you up. Most people, even if you didn't defend it to others, you likely, because like you said, that we live in religious cultures now, most people aren't born in a vacuum, so that they're not, ever, religious or influenced by religion. They have to come to a choice to deny, or reject, or say it doesn't make sense, or say it doesn't there's no evidence for it. I mean, it's in other words, I always tell people, I'm a rationalist, so I don't get how you can say that you got to a rational position with no rational. I mean,
Yeah.
you,
Well, I
that's like
mean,
you say to the GMOs. I'm against GMOs because it's not a rational position. If you look at the evidence, there's like 2,000, documents and like 30 years of information, and every one of them come to the same conclusion. You know, then it's not rational at that point to keep believing that they're harmful. And
right.
same
It
thing with
comes
good.
No, I'm sorry. It comes down to sort of a fundamental lack of science literacy on the part of the people that are pushing this. And look, I'm never gonna say you shouldn't have any concerns, check them at the door. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying once you start to scratch beneath the surface, different things come up. I mean, for example, I had a friend who on Facebook actually, who started me off on the whole nature of being inquisitive about, well, hey, maybe GMO technology is safe. Maybe I should question that, because when you're a layman and you go out and you search for these things or you see things, 90% of the things you see and the people you're associated with are, if not just pro-label, we have a right to know type people. They're people that think that these things are inherently dangerous, and it takes an inquisitive mind to go and ferret out the bits of information out there and put them into order. It's not something you just that just is given to you, some information that's just given to you. You have to go out and find it. So.
Yeah, I agree. When I first became an atheist, I had already, was an anarchist, and a lot of anarchists seem to be anti-GMO because they're anti-Monsanto and anti-corporations. I'm with them on some corporations that I think are actually doing something wrong, but I don't really see, besides making money, what exactly. Why? Because I asked them before. Explain to me, because I'm willing to change. Explain to me what is wrong with Monsanto, and don't tell me about what happened in some war in Vietnam, and don't tell me it's because of GMOs. If you can tell me something credible, are they ruining our government? Are they besides? And they have no answer.
Well, here's my position on that is I am naturally a person, and this might sound cliche, I'm naturally disposed to disdain for hyperbole. I don't like hyperbolic rhetoric. I don't like hyperbolic language. I don't deal in absolutes.
Please explain what that is, people that don't know.
Yeah, I mean, so when people, extremes basically. So when someone takes the extreme hardline position of an issue, and for example, when anti-Monsanto people, Monsanto is the most evil company to have ever existed. They're evil. They're horrible. It's ridiculous to me to. Now, I'm sure there are things that they do that have been questionable. Yes, they spend money. Yes, there is an aspect of my personality that naturally questions monopolies and capitalism and things of that nature. However, you look on the other side of the coin, and the organic industry is a $63 billion a year industry. Okay, so we're talking about money versus money. With a company, an organic company, its vested interest is to discourage you from using products that are, manufactured with GMO processes and, GMO tech. Their bottom line rests on you putting aside, any food that has that technology. So we're talking about lots and lots of money at stake. So to say that it's just one-sided and it's just Monsanto that's making money is ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was just saying that even if you don't see GMOs as bad, and you don't accept that they're the only company that ever did something that was used in war, then what other reason are they bad besides they're rich? I mean, nothing.
Well, you'll get a variety of responses from people who are anti-GMO. First, you'll get, we just have a right to know what's in the food, we want it labeled. I can get back to that in a second. I'll just sort of lay out what the responses are. So, we just want it labeled. GMO tech is inherently dangerous and harms people and causes, cancers, and it's, toxic pesticides and things like that, right? Then you have people that are, I'm anti-patenting. I don't want corn patented. You have no right to patent corn. So you have all these different concerns sort of amalgamated in the movement, and some people have the concern that they're inherently dangerous. Some people don't think they're inherently dangerous, but just don't like Monsanto. It's a jump. So you have the truth in labeling people to start off with. They put forth this notion that we have a right to know what's in our food. And on face value, you think about that and you go, well, that's reasonable. We should know what's in the food. However, I don't think it's fair to criminalize an action or put restrictions on an action that you can't demonstrate has any kind of danger. So you're putting the burden on that company while organic companies get to do whatever they want. Also, use the so that truth in labeling.
Right, because what you hear him say really is that they want GMOs labeled. They don't say pesticides, because if pesticides were labeled, then people that have organic foods would have to label pesticides as well.
Right. And it is a catch-all label, right? So these people fundamentally understand what GMO technology entails. Okay, I mean, the process of simple alteration is different than, you know, another kind of alteration. One-size-fits-all label is not going to tell you anything about what the food is that you're eating. And my argument has always been, why can't you just continue to label organic? You know, much easier, much more cost-effective. You look at it, oh, it doesn't have an organic label. It's not an organic food. I shouldn't eat it. Why so much burden on the company that doesn't want to label? And I see why they don't want to label. That's a stigma. You know, if I have to put a warning label on my food, guess what? You're going to go, oh, that's a dangerous food. They have, I think they have enough public stigma on them that if people want to have that stigma, they already do.
Yeah.
They don't need a label to tell them, well, you know, oh, here I basically have a skull and crossbones on this, I'm not going to buy it.
Well, if that worked, people wouldn't buy cigarettes.
Right, yeah. I mean...
Have you ever been to Canada? They actually put, like, rotten lungs pictures and dead things on the outside box of the each pack of cigarettes. And guess what?
And you know,
people still buy cigarettes.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with people doing that with cigarettes, because there is a scientific consensus and agreement that cigarettes are bad for you. There is no such agreement on food technology, like GMO technology.
Well, my point was that even if, say, they got GMO labels, it doesn't mean that people aren't going to eat stuff. I mean, we know that, like, trans fats, you know, can be a problem. I don't see anybody having a big issue eating, you know, chips. And I mean,
well, I've seen people on the the anti-GMO side say, well, we've got all these labels on everything telling us what kind of fat, what amount. Why can't we just have another label? And it's completely fallacious, and, you know, for the reasons I've kind of outlined, got a million more too. But,
I think that the labeling is stupid, and I'm saying is I don't think it would matter that much if we did, except people that are already, you know, the fanatics. It's not going to change anyone else's mind. The problem I have is that, like you said, that I don't really care what they do. It doesn't really bother me what they do with their life. If they choose to only eat GMOs, fine. What I have a problem is they're on a crusade to go and make, like you said, fearmonger everyone to believe this nonsense. They miss it. To me, it's like a Christian that stands out on the, you know, the thing with things like everyone's going to hell.
Well,
you know?
it's also not just a crusade for us in America, where even the poorest among us can find access to food. It's a crusade that, you know, has taken place in poor countries like in Africa, or the continent of Africa, rather. I think it says, I forget what country specifically in Africa, but, you know, these activists made it so demonized that their prime minister or president, I forget which, but, you know, said, okay, well, we're not going to have this technology, and people starve over this. Just because I can afford to spend $4 a pound on apples, everybody can't. So it's a privileged position that really undermines global food, you know, crises. So I find that really despicable, like with what happened with golden rice. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Go ahead and tell us.
So golden rice is a vitamin A fortified rice that
Right.
a lot of activists are against, because we need more research while they destroy the fields, right? We need research, and I'll destroy your test fields. But it's a rice that has the potential to meet the nutritional needs of people in poor countries that don't have adequate food supplies. And, activists don't care. I've heard people actually tell me, well, I don't eat rice, so I don't care. It's like, wow, that really?
Yeah, some places in the world, rice is almost all they eat.
Yeah, and so to have a rice that's fortified that could sustain your needs throughout the day, that's massive. And if you care about people so much, like, Greenpeace or these organizations that are against GMO technology, no, you don't care about people. You're furthering the end of a big corporation. It's hilarious, because that's what you're supposed to be against. So, and then I'd like to also address um, this whole food waste. You hear a lot of activists say, well, we don't need to fortify rice and things like that because the problem is just a food waste problem. We waste so much food in the world, right? Absolutely. Yes, we waste food. It's horrible. It's awful. But you can't legislate against food waste. So I'm not sure what they want people to do. Um, yeah, it's better to not have food, but it's not going to solve the problem.
Right, but some food is not wasted. I was a truck driver, and I used to go pick up like slop food and take it to hog farms and mink farms. So I mean, it's not like
Well,
not like some food doesn't. I think that more of it should be, they should figure out a way to cut it all down.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, people in America, especially, we throw away a lot of food, and it's disgusting, right? It's a really privileged position to be in. But like you said, you're supposed to feed pigs, slop, things of that nature. But then again, you're not supposed to eat meat either. So, I mean,
Yeah.
why do you feed the pigs?
You're talking about the vegans.
Yeah. I mean, so for a lot of people,
What's your position on that? You're like, I don't want to talk about it.
no, it's a personal choice. It's it's great if people do that, but don't try to tell me that my way of eating is somehow unnatural. You don't know what you're talking about.
So, and what is your way of eating?
Well, my way of eating is probably not that great. I probably need to fix it, but I do enjoy eating meat. I think it's something that something like red meat should be consumed sparingly. It's not something you should be eating every day, but it's it's something that, at least in the past anyway, furthered our evolution and got us to where we are. If it wasn't for eating cooked meat, there would be no us. And supplements, by the way, are not going to. A lot of vegans have to supplement their nutrition. Supplements aren't exactly natural, so.
Yeah, I think that sometimes I agree. I think if people want to be, vegans, more power to you. I mean, and if you feel you're doing it for an ethical reason, I like ethics. So I commend you for it. Don't tell me what to do because I see it as a food choice.
Don't point to PETA as some moral.
Well, yeah, I tell people, PETA says that you should be kind to animals. Though if you bring animals and drop off, PETA kills thousands of animals every year because as soon as you drop them off, they just take the animals and they euthanize them because they don't believe they should be pets.
Right. I mean, let's think about that, examine that for a second. The belief of total animal liberation. Okay, so that means you don't get to have a pet. If you're going to take it to the extreme position that
No, yeah, definitely.
I mean, a lot of individual members of PETA don't feel that way, but as an organization, yes, these things have come out of the mouths of, Ingrid Newkirk and people like that, right? We don't believe in any kind of animal testing, but we will use insulin if we have diabetes, okay? You can't use insulin if you have diabetes if you don't believe in any form of animal testing. That's called, being a hypocrite, right? Because that came about through animal testing. If you have a pit bull, they don't believe in pit bulls. They believe pit bulls should be eradicated. That's not helping animals. So you could go on and on for hours about those people. Just more fear-mongering and scare tactics.
Yeah, and I see some trying to attach that to atheism. Like somehow, if you're science and atheism, you get to veganism. And
No.
you know, like I said, if they see it that way, you know, I'm not against that, but you know, it's wrong. It's not correct. And I've had a few friends on Facebook unfriend me because I'm not a vegan, and I you know, just because I tell them I don't it's not what you say is it's not true. I mean, what's really funny to me too is that I'm an axiological atheist, so I am anthrocentric, which means I see human as the highest value.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people actually do, but what's funny is they don't believe that. They believe in no speciesism. So in other words, a dog, a rat, a cat, an ant actually has the same value as a human. I find that to be impossible for my mind to manage. But what's funny is they say that, but if that's true, then other animals are killing other animals. I don't get how you then say that I'm more responsible than they are. If it's natural for them to kill.
If we're the same, like you're saying, yes, but the contradiction is that, you know, they'll also tell you, well, you know, animals haven't reached a stage yet where they have consciousness to be able to say, I'm not going to eat another animal, right? And I think even there are people like that, but I think that there are also some vegans who would say, well, you know, a lion will never be able to eat grass because their body can't process that, right? So we understand now, we give that a pass, but it's all a bunch of bullshit.
But even apes, even a horse will actually has the ability to eat meat. So even a cow can eat meat. Birds can eat meat. I mean, a lot of things that don't usually eat meat doesn't mean they can't. You know.
Yeah. It might not be optimal.
Right.
But yeah, you can definitely go there. I mean, it's just stupid to me that it's become about, you know, well, you don't give a fuck about animals if you eat animals of any sort. If you eat a chicken, you know, how do you care about a dog? And I find that repugnant because I care deeply for companion animals and dogs and cats and deeply. So, but a cow and a chicken are not the same as a dog.
Yeah.
If a cow
on that,
then a plant.
And on that, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was saying on that point, I was a truck driver, like I said before. And I've actually I hauled a lot of different kinds of product, and sometimes I would do refrigerator product. And I've actually been to slaughterhouses. I've actually been to bird farms, and so I know exactly what they do. I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I agree with the point that we need to do it a little more humanely. I think.
Absolutely.
So the birds actually. Like they live their whole life basically in this little tiny cage. I find it to be, it shouldn't be like that. They're not all of them. There's some that have like more open range, you know, and stuff. But ones that keep them in their whole life in this little tiny cage that they barely can put their head up. I don't think that we need to make the animals suffer just because they're going to be food. So, So go ahead.
Two separate issues, right? I mean, so
yeah, two separate issues, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that like you were saying, what the problem is, they take an issue like that, say, oh, see this?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not for factory farming and animal abuse. Yeah, so
let's fix that. If PETA was just for that, I would be supporting that. But it's not for like reasonable, because like what I'm just saying is what they'll show like, see how they're mistreated, and they'll say, see, join PETA. Yeah, if that's all you guys were for, was the stopping this, treatment animal, I would be on board. But that's not all you're for.
I'd be a member. Yeah, absolutely, I'd be a member. But there's a lot of self-righteousness that goes along with those causes that I just don't. Even if I agreed with them, I just couldn't get on that bandwagon of, like I told you before about hyperbole and extreme positions. You know, when you're standing outside of a restaurant handing literature out to kids that says your mommy's a murderer. That's fucking ridiculous. When you want to compare chickens to photos of Holocaust victims, not okay. Not at all. And the idea that they would weep for 6 million chickens the way that they would weep for 6 million Jews is just incredible to me. lack of humanity, I guess, on their part.
Well, I think that some of the reasons why it's easier in a sense to like animals is for the very reason, as you said before, that they don't talk really. So it's not like they say things that we don't like to hear. You know what I'm saying? It's like me. People may, I have a lot of friends on Facebook. I almost have at any given time. I usually have 5,000 the max, but then it drops down as I keep talking. Because when people first see me, they have this opinion about what they think I am, and then they see a couple posts, and then they think they know who I am, and then they read more posts, they realize they don't really like who I am or whatever, and
Yeah.
then they leave. But I think it's funny that yeah, bye, whatever. I mean, hey, good
Yeah.
people. And some of them I unfriend. So.
Hey, the kids say nowadays, "Do you," right? So, do you, Damien?
Yeah, and do you? I mean, I think it's important really to just be yourself, and I think that like I'm saying, I think that it's fine, that people have different ways of thinking. I don't try to say there's a right kind of atheist. I mean, I don't agree with that. So I mean, because someone before says an atheist should say this or say that. Whatever. I don't care if someone calls himself a Christian atheist. As long as you tell me you don't believe in God, you're an atheist. If you
Right.
believe in God, I don't care if you call yourself an atheist. You are not an atheist.
Yeah,
I mean,
I see what you mean.
as far as I'm concerned, I'm just saying, not
Yeah.
that I have authority over who could be an atheist.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's not what it's about. However, like I said before, it is about being in a community that, look, I don't want to just be in a community that's like, we don't like Christians and fuck Christians and like that's of no value to my life whatsoever. What are you doing to, I don't want to say it has to be this way with the activism, but, because sometimes it's good to just have friends who understand your point of view. Um, but yeah, it's important to me that you're actually doing something, some kind of good for the world. For I guess you could say putting your actions where your words are. So I mean, that's important too.
And
But
how do you, as an atheist, know what's good?
it's completely relative to my opinion. I guess what's good. It's there. That's not a universal. I don't necessarily think that's a universal truth, but there are some things, right, like that are important to me, like science literacy. Um,
So is science literacy a universal truth of a necessity? Just wondering.
in lieu of getting completely philosophical and breaking it down to its lowest point, I would say yes, because every country that doesn't have science literacy wishes they did, right? Hope that doesn't sound jingoistic or anything, but
What does that mean?
I, that my country's better type of attitude, like America
Oh,
kind of has
oh, oh.
sometimes. But,
You mean like
yeah,
nationalism?
like well, not yeah, exactly. There you go. I don't want to sound like because we have it, you want it, but science is something that countries are at a race to the top for, math and science, right? Where we're very low.
I was gonna say, how can we be happy about that? Do we really have the highest? I was like, I don't
No,
remember that.
no.
I don't remember that we have a right to feel nationalism about science literacy.
No, not science literacy, no, but we do, but what we do have a monopoly on and we're at the top of is science technology in terms of, things that make our lives, I guess you could call it better, but modern conveniences and hot water and things like that that third world countries don't know, that don't have. They want it. That's one thing that I think we can all agree on is that they would like to have those basic, above basic needs. It's something that they'd strive for. But like the saying goes, with the people who don't like science, I guess, or they'll say they don't. They'll use all the fruits of science's labor. They will use and utilize. But when it comes to a scientific consensus on an issue that they've been fear-mongered to, no, we don't like science. Oh, we don't want to hear about evolution, but we'll use that hot water heater. It's kind of ridiculous. So you see a lot of that going around, whether that be with vaccines or GMO, you name it. we believe in climate change, climate change, but not, that vaccines are safe. That's ridiculous.
And can you explain about that?
About vaccines in particular, or?
Yeah, vaccines.
Yeah, I mean, my position
I
on.
see that there's some atheists or people say they're atheists that say they don't believe in vaccines.
Oh, and they absolutely could be atheists, right? Based on our definition we talked about earlier. They're just
Well,
not atheists.
I don't claim to know what how people are thinking, so.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's see, the topic in a larger sense, okay, the idea that vaccines are not safe, we don't know enough about them, they cause autism, a lot of, once again, claims that have nothing to back them. It's just a claim, right? Vaccines cause autism. Okay, well, can you show me something that would link to that? Oh, there's more autism in the world now. Okay, well, is it possible that we've just found a better umbrella to put people under, and now we can diagnose these things? No, it's vaccinations, and you have a lot of celebrities that think they're doctors, right? That'll come out and, oh, don't trust this technology. Well, why not? What's your underlying issue with it? Can you point to facts? And usually that is a resounding no.
Yeah, I know that a lot of things have shown that vaccines are safe, and certainly safer than not being vaccinated and waiting for the illness.
Well, yeah, ask people in Sudan how they enjoy not being vaccinated for TB and things of that nature. If you'd like to go there, then I'm sure they'll take you. They don't vaccinate, and you die at age 25. So I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't think that they understand too, because they'll say about safety, but like you said, if you ask them, like one person one time said, that I'm just being biased, that I think they're good, but they're actually bad, and I said I'm willing to go look them up. I'm willing to look up exactly how safe they are. Yeah. And so he goes, they were saying this 50% people catch the disease, and I was like, that can't be possible, because then shitloads of people would have the freaking disease. So, I mean, it's not even rational. Like I said, I'm a rationalist. So things you say don't make rational, logical sense. I already know that it's bullshit. But I'm willing to, go and back up myself. So I went and looked. And first off, every vaccine doesn't have the same issues. But then again, it's not the same disease anyways, or illness. So... Yeah. There's some that where 80% get a fever, and then there's some that where it's 10% get a fever. There's some where it can cause 105 temperature, but it's like 1 in 40,000.
Okay. Well, I've actually had a person say to me, I mean, this is their own statistics. I'm sure they might be bullshit too. I don't know, but well, 102 kids out of 300 and something million got sick, and it's like, did you just hear yourself? Really? 102 out of 300 million? Is that what you said? Really? Like, I don't, 360 some odd million, I think, is our population, so I don't know if I would say that 300 million people have had vaccines here. I don't know. There are enough to say. I don't know the specifics of that, but he actually said that, and it's like, 102 cases. I will take that 102 cases any day of the week over, one more Disneyland outbreak, right? Of the
well, and that goes back to, once again, to me, about being a rationalist. If you're not going to do something because of those kind of odds, then never fly a plane, never ride a motorcycle, certainly never go skiing. Don't go scuba diving.
Don't breathe.
There's a lot of things you need to stop doing if you care about statistics. Never go in the ocean. I mean, you could just go on and on and on. Things, because rip currents can kill you. I mean, a lot of things, The problem is, like you said about statistics, is the statistic can sound bad, but only if you don't put it up against other statistics.
Right. I don't think these people understand how statistical analysis works. On a broad scale, or any scale whatsoever, right? But yeah, I mean, and we were talking about my upbringing earlier. I also grew up, well, towards my later years, thankfully, so I was vaccinated as a small child, but when I started getting into middle school after my mom became, Wiccan or whatever you want to call it, she became kind of fervently anti-vaccine. But in a funny way, it wasn't that this is really dangerous, whatever. It was more because my mom didn't want to see me get vaccinations. She was always afraid of me getting a medical procedure, so she just decided one year she takes the cake. I should make her a Jenny McCarthy cake, actually. She went out to an office supply store and had a doctor's stamp made so that she could stamp my vaccine card, so when I went into the 7th grade, look, Dr. something something certified. I mean, we spent time and money on this, and for what, I don't know. She tried to claim religious exemption. For some reason it didn't work. I don't know why, though, because usually that's a golden ticket, right? But
speaking of which, do you know what's funny? I don't know if you know that there's only 2 states in the United States that don't allow any exemption, philosophical or religious.
Isn't
West Virginia,
yeah,
and Mississippi, 2 of the poorest states in the Union.
2 of the most religious states.
And religious, Republican, yeah. So it's funny because someone said, "Oh, you can't force that. That would be, anti, rights and Republican." And I'm like, actually, 2 Republican states already did it, and I don't hear anyone complaining.
Well, I think a lot of that also comes from the fact, look, let's put it in perspective, okay? My state, California, your former state, is the state where this is the worst, right? And it comes from a highly affluent sort of privilege, right? So Mississippi and West Virginia are 2 of the most poor states in the Union, right? I mean, West Virginia is coal country. Mississippi is just, not shit-talking Mississippi, but it's a very, very poor state with a lot of federal aid, as far as I'm aware. I think that's correct. They take a lot of federal aid. Not very solvent as a state. So, they have a real concern there in those states that their kids are going to get sick, and it tends to be more suburban areas that are skeptical of vaccines. It's not poor places.
Yeah, well, that would mirror the same thing that in Africa, that they're not fighting for anti-vaccines that I know of.
No, definitely not. And another thing I wanted to bring up too, whether it be GMO or vaccine, you always see these ad populum, so arguments based on popularity, come up about the efficacy and the safety of these things. So you'll see someone say, well, in 80 countries they have restrictions or bans on GMO. In 80 countries or in a number of countries, gay people are also persecuted. Is this how you want to come up with your public policy? So-and-so said, so, logical fallacy right there. You don't come up with public policy because it's or scientific consensus isn't formed based on popularity of which countries adopt things. It's not how that works.
Well, it's not how you should come up with ideas anyways.
No. I don't care if so-and-so does it this way. I don't care if this country does it this way. That has no bearing whatsoever on the safety of a given.
And our science today doesn't do that. It's not reasonable. It's not rational to do that. Like up to the 70s almost, they didn't believe women should be able to be in marathons, long distance, because it would hurt their body, basically their breasts.
Okay, yeah, because men's balls...
I'm not saying it's true, I'm saying
No, I'm just saying, because men's balls are really tough, right? So maybe...
That's a great one. Look at you, critical thinking. But
hey, look, it was an old, I think it was an old Betty White routine, right, where she would go, vaginas are the strongest things on the planet. Have you ever seen balls? Come on, they get easily hurt. So...
Yeah, no, I was just making a point that we don't think that now because we stopped, just believing stuff without evidence. There's this thinking that we can believe nonsense and not require evidence. I think is at the heart of, for me, all the problems of all these, flawed, woo beliefs, including religion, is this believing without evidence.
Well, what you have to take into consideration, too, to expand a little bit upon what we're talking about with countries and their consensuses on the policies they've come up with, those policies, even though their people believe them and their politicians do, are not the consensus of the scientific community in those countries. It's
Right.
important to note that they have gone against the scientific consensus. They're mavericks, right? They're making their own way. Um,
Which is funny because, like you said, a lot of people say they don't like when our politicians just do their own thing.
yeah,
Like you said, they're pointing towards countries that are doing their own thing.
yeah.
Like I've heard people talk about how they wish that President Obama was like the guy, of Saudi Arabia or of Jordan or of Putin. Really?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Like you
Okay.
said about gay rights, I mean, and women's rights. I mean, these are not, enlightened countries.
They're not democratic countries, little d democratic countries, right? So why? Yeah, okay. That's pretty ridiculous, right?
You've heard that, right? When they say stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I hear so much shit that I don't really even know where to start with it. So yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that.
So, you talked about community. Do you do anything as an atheist or as a science, person that's curious about science? Do you do anything, in community?
Well, actually, I just started attending some of the RAFT, the Riverside Atheist and Freethinker group meets. I've been to 3 so far, I think, and I've gotten really cool with some of the members of the organization, the group. So I know you're familiar with everybody there. It's your old community, right?
Yeah, it actually was 50 miles away from where I lived, but
Oh, that's right.
I still was there more than 3 times.
Hey, yeah, okay. Well, I just started, right? So
Yeah. So I would drive up there because I did like the people. I think it is a really great community. And
yeah,
I think
very.
that some people don't put enough value on a good atheist community because it helps you actually think better and
I
inspire
I
you.
I think a lot of people that don't place the value on the community are like I used to be, right? Because I don't typically feel that way about a lot of things. But what happens is once you find a community that meets your needs, that changes. I think it's actually very important for us as atheists and freethinkers to find a community because that's one thing that religion can always say that it has, if that's important to you, right? Is that we provide a sense of community and we have things that we do and we have charitable endeavors and activist endeavors or whatever kind of endeavors you can think of, companionship, friendship, whatever. Um, I used to be of the mind that, well, I don't really like people that much in all sorts of contexts, so I'm not going to go and deal with the people. I don't want to deal with anybody. I actually went to an Orange County meetup one time with my aunt's boyfriend is actually an atheist, and I was like 18, 19, and he took me to a Backyard Skeptics meeting, I think it was, and I didn't particularly care for it. So I guess I kind of shied away from further group meetings of that sort. So I think once you find a community that works for you, though, it's immensely beneficial if you value social interaction whatsoever at all.
What
Um,
made you change? You said you thought before you didn't need it. What made you change?
so going to RAFT events and finding out that people that attend and organize the RAFT events are really down to earth, very nice people that I could be friends with on an individual basis, right? I didn't want to go be a part of a sort of homogenized uh, atheist group where, okay, you pay your membership due and we'll meet once a week to do this and, you know, it's not really a lot of the groups aren't groups that I feel you could go into and individually be friends with individual people. It's like, well, I'm a part of the group and I go to the meeting and then I go home. I don't feel that way about the community that I'm a part of now. So it's very laid back too. So I appreciate that.
Right, but I'm saying, how did you get from the no need for community to going the first time?
Actually going to a meeting to figure out that I liked it. Yeah,
Yes.
a lot of communication on Facebook for about 6 months before I attended anything. And I was like, okay, I'm having a good back and forth with a lot of people in this group, so maybe I'll try it. Maybe I'll go to, it was a talk with Dr. Richard Carrier. And I went, and I enjoyed the people there. So it's really just as simple as that. That's what changed my mind on it. Being the interaction online was friendly, so I decided to carry it over to the library where the meeting was.
Yeah.
So
No, I like raft. Like I said, I was willing to drive 50 miles, from an area that has all kinds of, like you said, backyard skeptics. Not as much my style. I went to some of those, but I started my own group. But raft was more my style of people. So you're lucky that you are close enough to go and can still go. I would still go there if I still lived in California. And in fact, when I get my book published, I definitely want to go and do a talk at RAF, or just come down, if I'm doing something else, come and see people from RAF, because I feel really connection up there.
yeah, definitely. Like I said, my experience with the other group I had attended, it was kind of like people didn't seem to be interpersonally close in those groups. And I can see how some people might prefer that. But just for me, I was actually at the end of the day looking to make friends. So just overall, so it ended up working out really well.
Yeah, for me, because I'm a little bit different. I'm an anti-agnostic atheist. I had more people that were willing to accept my position, up there at RAF than I had, in Orange County. It was not, really accepted.
Well, yeah, Orange County being the home of the anti-vaxxers, you're bound to have some people like that within even a small sampling of people. So, yeah, I can see how that stuff might have been pervasive in the Orange County groups.
Yeah, and that's because you said where do you live?
I live in Riverside.
Oh, you live in Riverside. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's pretty convenient for me. I'm fairly close to just about every library where the events take place, or restaurant that they want to go to. So,
Awesome.
yeah, it worked out pretty well.
So, what would you say is your favorite thing about being an atheist?
I guess for me, it's kind of a liberation in terms of I've been able to say I'm not going to live under a specific set of dogmas that inform every decision that I make. So it's kind of a sense of freedom to not have to deal with, I have to follow a specific set of guidelines. There's someone watching me at all times. I mean, yeah, not always a good way to live, in my experience.
Yeah, I would say for me, it's that I've got a deeper level of caring. It's once the God thing was gone, then I realized it's just us, and if I don't do something, if I don't care, then who's going to? Because no one's going to come and save us. There's no Sky Daddy.
No, Sky Daddy, that's become one of my favorite terms. I hear people say that all the time now. I'm like, Sky Daddy, yeah.
I'm saying, there's no one's looking out for us, unless it's us. No, it's only us humans, and it gave me a really different, connected feeling that, wow, we're here alone, on this spaceship Earth, and it's floating through the thing all by itself, and as far as I know, it was just us. So to me, it really changed how I approach things. In fact, a lot of my views changed.
Really?
Yeah, I was definitely a lot more hateful, especially of people that were homosexual or LGBT.
Really?
Yeah, I know it's hard to believe because I'm not now.
Yeah.
But like you said about the thing, I was like one of those people that the Bible says, that it's evil and all this, and that's why I realize, now I don't have that view at all. I feel like the Bible's the one that's evil. I mean, it's the one that's telling you that it is okay to hate.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess that's a point of contention with me. For example, you might wonder why I don't find myself a part of the gay community, right? Okay, in a large, I think we've talked about this before. How I,
Are you gay or bi
yeah, no,
or
I'm gay, yeah. And I don't find myself able to sort of assimilate with groups, a lot of groups of gay people, for the specific reason that a lot of them hold on to this sort of relationship with religion that I don't find justifiable at all. It's like, let's try and see how we can make religion work for us, and it's like, no, that doesn't compute for me. So you'll find just as many religious people among. The number is certainly less, but you'll find religious people among the gay community that are just as devout about it in their own way. The problem for me is I can respect, in a sense, not the beliefs, but I can respect someone who is a hardline biblical literalist, right? You're doing everything that your holy text prescribes for you to do to live a moral and decent, life that you're supposed to live. However, if you're a wishy-washy sort of moderate to liberal Christian, I don't know where you're getting your information from, the whole, the loving God type of image, the New Testament sort of image. That's few and far between. You have to really read between the lines to find that and cherry pick that information. So there's a lot more condoning of slavery and misogyny in there than there is, be kind to your neighbor. I also don't need to be told to be kind to my neighbor, but that's just me.
Yeah. So when did you realize that you were gay, or did you always feel that way?
I guess it's funny. I have a little bit of contention with when people just sort of offhandedly say, "Well, I always knew." It's like the way I would put it is that I looking back in hindsight, I can see that I've kind of felt this way for most of my conscious life, right? So, maybe kindergarten, there were like some feelings that you couldn't really put a name to. But so yeah, I think I sort of admitted to myself when I was probably 14 or so, kind of like, oh, this is how it is. And luckily for me, I never had any kind of shame or guilt. This is how I am. That's kind of, I was just able to accept it very quickly and move on.
Do you think that's because of how you were raised, or?
Well, I actually didn't come out to my mom, my primary parent, my mom, for a long time. Gosh, maybe in the last year or two, just because her sense of humor is kind of biting, and she's not religious or particularly anti-gay, but she's also very conservative in some ways. So I think we also have our issues between her and I. So I think it was my way of kind of holding on to my personal information. So I didn't come out for a long time to my primary parent, but I did recently. So.
And how does she take it?
She is still a little bit in denial about it. I guess you could say she kind of thinks that I should, it's kind of one of those classic, well, you're so pretty, why don't you find a man type of. But for her, it's more like
my mom, so pretty, you can find the right girl.
Yeah, right. My mom is very good at playing the game of life, I guess you could say, and she's had to resort to and be very savvy in her life. So I think her thing is like, well, you could find a man with a, and kind of game him. Why don't you do that? And it's like, well, I'm not out to game anyone, first of all, but also I'm not interested in that. But she thinks it's a phase, I think, to an extent. It's like, you're my daughter. How could you possibly be that way? She's okay. Right. My cousin has been gay, and I mean, is a little older than me, and everybody's known he was gay since he came out of the womb, since he strutted out of the womb, right? But my mom is totally like, oh, he has rights that he needs to fight for. But for me, it's I don't care how liberal-minded you are on that issue. Look at Sonny and Cher, right? Sonny accepted his son way before Cher ever accepted that fact, and Cher is supposed to be the liberal one. So right. My mom is very wishy-washy on that subject. So it depends on who she's talking to and at what time of the day.
How does that make you feel?
It's not super easy, I guess, right? Because I mean, I was raised by my mom. I went for periods in my life where I didn't have a dad. So my mom was my mom and my dad when I was younger. And I guess to have that person kind of negate that or not take it seriously is a little bit demeaning and insulting. But I really ultimately, that's not my biggest issue with my mom. So doesn't matter if she thinks that. She's still nice to me about it. She doesn't say anything mean. She's just ignorant about it. I can't get mad at that. I don't, for me anyway. It's not something I'm angry about. So
Well,
you just
I feel you have the right to get mad about that. You have the right to be hurt about that because it is hurtful. So
yeah,
I think that you do own your own self and your own self rights. And I mean, I think that, so I mean, you don't have to. I'm not saying you have to, but I
yeah,
mean, you certainly, anyone who's gay, whose parent rejects them, they have the right to feel hurt. You have the right to feel that you're not being cared for, because I think that it's the problem, like even like with abuse in general, is that it's funny how the person who feels the worst and wants to usually, is the victim itself, not the people, that do it. And a lot of times abused, children will do a lot to say, well, that parent is not that bad, or they do some good stuff. I'm not saying that's exactly what you're doing, but I'm saying it's for me, I understand psychology, that we often, don't want to acknowledge their real feelings, so we say it's okay.
yeah,
To me, it's not okay. So I'll say it for you. It is not okay that your mom does not accept you. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with anybody who's gay. The
yeah,
people that say that there's something wrong with them.
yeah.
So I mean, that's it. It is 100%, natural. It's 100% normal. There's not, the only abnormal thing is that we try to make everybody not be who they are.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think for me, it's just at this point, it's easier to just not be upset with her about it, because it doesn't affect I don't allow that to affect my life in that great of a on that great of a scale. So, and I don't live with my mom anymore, so it's not consequential for me. Do I think that I could benefit from maybe some like therapy with my mom to go and suss these issues out? Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody could benefit from something like that. But yeah, my mom is definitely less supportive than my dad, for example, who for a long, certain periods of time in my life, like I said, was not there. And you would never think that he would be, because of the kind of guy he is. He's kind of comes off as kind of tough and sometimes a little callous, but he's very, very supportive. So I think he also figured at one point that he didn't really have much of a choice but to be supportive, because he hadn't been in my life. So I think my mom is kind of more coming from a place of, well, I've been there for you, and it has nothing to do with me being gay, though. But some people just have a hard time with it, and that's not going away in the next couple years here. I mean, as generations go on, right? But even the most open people in the world have a hard time with their kids turning out a way that they didn't expect. Not just gay, right? But whether your kids end up on a different political spectrum than you, or a different religious spectrum, that can be hard to take. Difference is a hard thing for people. One of the reasons why I don't have kids, one of the many reasons I don't and won't have kids, sometimes you don't own your kids, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And so there is a possibility or probability, whatever you want to call it, that they are going to end up going a different way than you did, and that can be hurtful to some people's ego. If let's say we have a child, and that child, or you had a child and I had a child, and they both came home and said, hey, we're going to be evangelical Christians now. It's like, oh, that's not the way I raised you. But it's your choice, obviously.
Yeah, I wouldn't be harsh to a child. I feel like people own themselves, so it wouldn't bother me. I mean, I still have relatives that are evangelicals. I mean, my mom is. I don't hound her over it. I mean, it's wrong. I would tell someone it's wrong. I'd be honest and say I'm against it. But I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like people in general, like I said about, I don't have a problem with people what kind of atheist you are or anything. You know, it doesn't.
Yeah.
I do care about how you affect other people.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I don't. I do absolutely care. You own yourself. What you do to yourself is your own business, especially.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think definitely for me more so than my mom, because I never did anything to hurt anyone. But for me, the idea that I guess it's a bit of an anxiety that I could have a kid one day that could go, go somewhere and come home and go, hey, I'm going to be an evangelical. And it's like, really? You have two mothers. Like, how is that going to work?
I'm sure it's happened.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I think those people are less inclined to be hateful because they weren't. I mean, certainly that's not an inherent trait. That is something you learn. So, yeah, I don't know. But one of the many reasons why I don't have kids. But, yeah.
So how did your mother take it when you said you were an atheist? Was it?
My mom and I kind of laugh about that. I mean, it's kind of like I said, my mom sort of has that biting sense of humor. So it's kind of like sometimes she'll go back and forth with me on it, like, oh, well, you should just be spiritual or believe that there's something out there. And it's like, okay, Mom. And, often the position that atheists get pigeonholed into is that, we're unyielding and we're harsh and because we don't want to entertain other people's beliefs and notions. So I kind of get painted by her as being like, oh, you're too rigid and, you think you know but you don't, and like it's a position of arrogance. And that's fine. She can think that, but I don't believe things that aren't substantiated, so there's no reason for me to pay attention to them. So
right, yeah, and if she wants to see who's to level you against somebody who's definitely arrogant about their atheist, just send her to my page, because I have no problem saying there's no God. I have no problem being arrogant. I don't like other people's beliefs. They're allowed to have them, but they're not allowed to stop the repercussions of stating them openly in a public forum.
Yeah, those are people that don't understand the first thing about how freedom of speech works and what the mechanics of it are. You're free to be protected in your speech from the government, but you're not free from my reprisal against your belief. So I don't think people understand that. It always turns into, well, you're trying to hamper my free speech by having your own, and it's like, no, it doesn't work like that. But I know my mom, for the most part, is pretty accepting, because I can tell that she is, because she jokes around. Like, she had a very religious friend, a fundamentalist Christian friend, and I remember she told the friend that I'm an atheist to kind of irk her friend. So, that's not really a problem for me in any way.
Yeah, it was for me. My mom openly cried.
Really?
Yeah. It would have been better if I said I was gay. To say I was, because, well, see, the difference is, gay I could still be Christian.
Uh-huh.
So I could still be saved.
Yeah.
But atheist, especially respecting God completely, I'm going to hell. As far as
that whole tenet to many fundamentalist sects of Christianity, that whole, the one irredeemable sin is renouncing the Holy Spirit, right? So
I went ahead and did that, though.
Yeah.
I could do it again. I renounce the Holy Spirit as worthless, stupid, foolish, ignorant, made up.
And let's put it this way, too. You asked about what kind of atheist I am, where my beliefs kind of go. I wouldn't care if there were a God. I don't believe that just because, even if you could prove to me tomorrow that there's a God, doesn't mean I'm going to run out and worship tomorrow. I don't really believe in the concept of worship at all anyway. So wouldn't matter if there was a God for me. There wouldn't be any point of homage rather.
Right, and in that you're using a portion of axiological atheism, which states that nothing deserves even the name God, because that actually the name of being, like, say, a being a Yahweh, but Yahweh is God. His name is or El or Baal but when the God is actually the characteristics and deserving of reverence that you're attaching to the being. So you could say, hey, God, Haley. Haley is the name of the person, God is the characteristics. So as far as an axiological atheist, nothing deserves the title of God.
Right.
So it rejects even the title is allowed to be attached. So if you could show me, in other words, just because you can show me a super powerful being doesn't mean that being gets to call itself God.
No,
That's the point. Because, and then the second thing I agree with you is the axiological position is that nothing deserves to be, because it told you it's the feeling is that nothing deserves to be worshipped, and certainly nothing deserves to be worshipped that threatens you. So
well, and not anything that created this world. No. I mean, I guess I could go both ways on that. I could say that, I personally think that I view the world as a more beautiful and place worthy of awe because there are no gods. Because if you want to go into the whole, well, we were manufactured by a god, and then you could point to all the little flaws and holes. Whereas if you go ahead and pin it rightly so on evolution and that process, you can go, well, it's a continuing work in progress, and it's amazing that it's here to begin with. I think when you start with a god, you can start poking holes, and it becomes it devolves rather quickly.
Right, yeah. The easiest God to defend is the God that you don't define. It is the easiest. If I just say like somethingism.
Oh yeah.
Like you said, your mom, something's out there. It's just somethingism. It's a belief that something. When they don't, because how can you attack somethingism? Because they're not saying anything. Because they're not defining a characteristic. Say, well, God can't be taken down by science because there's something out there and science doesn't know yet. Well, there could be
anything out there that science doesn't know yet. That you could point to a million different discoveries that haven't been made. Yeah, and I agree with you in the sense that it's, and I have more, not that I believe it's true or more true in any way, but I certainly have a lot more respect for people and tend to argue and debate them less on certain things when they just sort of go, well, I don't know how, I don't know the what, I don't know the dogmas or the where or the when or the why, but, there might have been something out there. That's so wishy-washy for me that it's not even, whereas I could sit and tear holes into the biblical God all day long, But yeah, you're right. If you're not defining what God you're talking about, I have much less room to take it out.
Well, just like that, the one guy, William Lane Craig, he does a really good job of fighting for deism.
Yeah.
Trying to use logic to fight for deism. He doesn't really fight for the Bible God. And a lot of Christians now, because of science, they try to do that. They try to make God so wishy-washy and impossible that it's too hard because there's nothing to debunk. In a sense, I still don't think that that's true. But
right.
I'm saying that
it's more difficult. Yeah.
They make it more difficult. Like they try to make it so that but the point is that even if they could, that doesn't mean that your God is the deistic God. So to me, it's a fallacy anyways, because even if you could prove that there was something, that doesn't equal that your religion is true. Because if any God could be possible, then any God could be possible. I mean, right. they don't get that by making somethingism, actually, they hurt a certain religion, because then anything is possible. So then like Pascal's wager says, right? You know what it is?
Yeah, I believe I'm familiar with it. Would you
Pascal's wager says, the simple thing is instead of saying what it is, but a simple thing is just basically that how do you know? Christians like to say this. How do you know? Why don't you just for make sure believe in God? See, but they don't understand if you make God a deism, and that means any God somethingism, anything could be possible. You really can't make a choice, because if you have 10,000 gods to choose from, how am I sure Christian God is the right God? It's easier actually to be an atheist at that point than to believe in a Christian. So if you're going to roll the dice in that logic sense, it's better to not believe, because you don't want to pick the wrong God.
Yeah. And that's a very standard Christian argument, the argument of, I used to have this book, I forget exactly what it's called, but when I first really started getting into reading more about atheism and accepting the label, the moniker, it was something like 50 reasons people give for being religious, something like that. And it's a good book. It's a good place to start off if you're very new to everything. But one of the main reasons that people give is that, well, what if I'm wrong? So I'd rather err on the side of caution. You know, the whole I'm going to err on the side of caution and believe
Right,
there's
that's Pascal's wager.
okay, that's good to know there's a name for it. But it's interesting to me because even as a Christian, you're standing on very tedious ground with other Christians. Okay, if you're a Baptist and you're a Pentecostal, right? As a Baptist, you believe that if something is speaking through you, it has to be a demon. If you're a Pentecostal, you believe that that is the Holy Spirit speaking through you. These
Right.
things are diametrically opposed. So to even
Or if you're a Catholic, I mean, Christians. When I was raised as a child, we thought Catholics were all going to hell.
yeah.
I mean, my mom won't even to this day call them Christians.
Yeah, okay. One of the things that bothers me more than just about anything is when, and it becomes hard for me to be respectful of people that are in my life that are religious, is when, you'll be sitting watching something and someone's belief comes up, maybe something about Islam or something about Judaism or spiritual woo or whatever. Someone's talking about telekinesis, right? And they'll go, oh my God, how stupid that is, or about something Mormon.
Yeah.
Oh, magical underwear. It's like, bitch, you believe in a talking snake.
Yeah.
And that's where I start to get chastised from people in my life. My partner is actually religious. So,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You live with you, or?
Yeah, we live together, yeah.
So,
She's not here right now.
what's that?
I said, she's not here right now.
Oh, so you can talk about her? What, she's not going to watch your video? You're like, not going to tell her about the video.
No, she knows I'm doing it. And you want to know something, actually, and it's more of a testament to her character than mine, but on most things, she's more accepting than I am. I mean, she's more supportive than I am, in the sense of, oh, you're having your interview thing today? Oh, that's really cool. Oh, you're going to Raft? Okay, that's cool. Bye. Whereas, if you tell me you're going to Sandals, it's like, oh, that homophobic garbage, So
Sandals? What's sandals?
Sandals.
You said that there. You're talking about the island, retreat sandals. I was thinking, the hell's wrong with doing the sandals? I don't know. It looks pretty. I've never gone, but looking at the commercials, it doesn't look that bad.
Oh my gosh, where there's like a hammock on the beach and everybody.
Yeah, like that doesn't really sound like. Maybe
Oh my gosh,
like homophobic. I'm thinking, wow, I didn't know sandals was homophobic.
You're like, I'm not gonna support them.
Fuck sandals!
Fuck Sandals.
You're hating people? What the hell? No, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so no, dispel everything you once thought of the term sandals, right? Really, you have canned applause? Oh my gosh, I'm not even saying. So Sandals is a, I guess you could, I don't know if it falls under the category of a mega church, but it's a very prominent church in Riverside.
Oh, see, I don't know it.
There's Harvest and there's Sandals, and those are like the two biggest churches in Riverside. But Sandals, it's known for not exactly being the most gay-friendly type of setting, but she goes. It's a whole long story. She goes for her mother's sake, and it's not necessarily her opinion. Certainly not her opinion that they're right on that. But it's they have a sort of how would I put it? Like, I don't want to call it a cult style, but they have a sort of a charismatic pastor, and everybody loves him, and whatever shit he's spewing that day. But yeah, Sandals. So when I hear, like, maybe I don't need to give up any of my beliefs, but maybe I need to be a little bit more compassionate and, okay, that's where you're going, but of course I have in my head that I'm going to do something positive that's not anti-gay, so that's cool. Whereas it's a little bit harder for me to swallow, even if she were going to an accepting church, which she's actually looking for right now. She's thinking about going to the one in downtown Riverside. But I'm still not always comfortable with those concepts. So we're working on all that. It's definitely a work in progress.
So would you get married in a church if she wanted to marry and you were willing to marry her? I'm not asking if you are. I'm just saying if.
No, she actually is understanding on that one, and she wouldn't see any reason to make me go into a church to have a wedding.
Okay.
So she's cool. She's cool on that accord. Um,
So,
yeah, she's like,
so I was asking you, if she wasn't cool, would you?
oh, I'm sorry. If she,
The other answer is a good answer too. I'm still being an asshole. So.
no, no, I hear what you're saying now. If it were a sort of liberalish Christian church, then yes, I would go. Obviously, we wouldn't be welcome in any other type of Christian church anyway. So, yeah, I probably would, because it doesn't affect. At the end of the day, I have to remember it doesn't have any effect on me. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So if that's what makes her happy, then I should probably just go ahead and get over my hang-ups and do it. Has more of an effect on her to, walk into a place where she might think she's going to be damned because of it, like a raft meeting or something, which she doesn't feel that way. But for me, I don't believe in any of that stuff, so it doesn't have as much bearing on me. So
Speaking of raft meeting, do you think that she'd get married at a raft meeting, knowing it's an atheist thing? Because you said you're like, where are these questions coming from?
So now Raft is going to have like Jen and John are going to become ordained.
Who knows?
They might, right?
Or maybe they want to support you, and so they get a pastor to come out. They do a lot of events. I mean,
a pastor?
Well, I'm talking about like a humanist or something.
No,
I'm not saying. Well, and it could be a pastor. What if she wants to have a pastor and willing to have it at an atheist a meetup? That would be something very bizarre.
For as much as I
could give you that, a gay marriage at RAF with a pastor. That would be hilarious. But go ahead.
I was just gonna say, for as much as I beat up on her personally and give her shit for her beliefs, which I'm not outwardly mean to her, but I do question her softly, which sometimes she gets upset about, because it's a sacred cow, right? But for as much as I do all of that, I'm very protective of her. So I'm getting to know how everything in RAF goes, and so she's mentioned to me that she would, maybe I want to hang out with your friends sometime. So I have to be kind of careful in terms of I'm not going to ask them ever to filter themselves in front of anybody. So that's my friends, and I'm not going to ask them to do that. However, this is my partner, and I don't want her to be uncomfortable. So you have to kind of suss out how you go about those things, right? So
that brings up another point, though, for me. I'm not a very close friend of yours, but I mean, I don't feel like I'm not some kind of a friend. But I would say that, like, if you asked me, if you said that you and your girlfriend are going to come around me, I mean, I'm certainly not any shy about. I hate religion. I mean, I'm probably more of the extreme of people that's. I just not mean to people, but I fucking hate. I hate atheist church. I mean, I anything to do. But if you asked me, I wouldn't feel offended. I would feel that it's a showing that you care not only about her, but about our friendship. That you trusted me enough to think that I would do something for your betterment if it helped her. So I'm just saying that to think about that. I don't know. I don't think that it's wrong to ask people that are your friends to, because see, like they said, filtering yourself. But see, it's not really them doing it for them. It's doing it for you.
Well, and I would.
How I would see it.
Think.
I'm not speaking for Raph.
Yeah, no, I would think that you, Damien, you would probably have more respect for the fact that I told you that I wasn't comfortable with you filtering yourself. So it's like things like that open the door in social interactions, right? Where when I show respect and reverence for your position, you're more likely to come and meet me in the middle, in terms of, well, yeah, she cares about how I feel about it and doesn't want me to put that filter on. So you know what, she really cares, so I could make a concession. I can see that, and I think with individuals that I particularly enjoy hanging out with in Raft, if we were to do something outside of Raft, that might be a better playing field for that type of, like, whether it be like a double date type of thing or just going to the movies, whatever. I don't feel compelled to constantly talk about my beliefs. Sometimes I just want to watch a TV show, so I know religious people and non-religious people alike both have that need.
I was just making you see the difference, that it doesn't mean that someone who's your friend, if they're your friend, would feel that you have to just protect their feelings but not think that yours don't matter. I'm just saying, for me, I find it equal. If you said you wouldn't ask me to, filter myself because you respect me, I would respect that. If you said, would you please filter yourself because I would respect that. I would respect it either for different reasons, though. One is you're respecting me. The other one is I hear you're respecting you because you're respecting her. So, for me personally, it's equal.
And I think that a lot of us in the community have to realize that we have to be careful. Sometimes every approach is different, right? You have to be careful in how you approach certain believers, because you run the risk of, if your intent is to inform and to change minds and win the hearts and minds battle, coming at someone will never do it. I mean, there is a time and a place for that, absolutely. But I know from experience, for example, with someone like my girlfriend, she's going to fight you, just because someone's being confrontational with her, So I know that approach doesn't work for a lot of people, but it's definitely a measure of how you approach things in what context and where and when and why and how. So I think that's important for this community to kind of consider too.
So did she know you were an atheist when you guys got together, or did you know she was a believer? I mean, or was it not an issue, and then you guys found out later?
Well, we were actually working together. We were really good friends for about 6 months before anything kind of happened in terms of a relationship. So we got to know a lot about each other on a friendship level. But I think the reason why she was so comfortable with me to begin with was because I'm not your typical, I guess, well, a lot of people aren't stereotypical, whatever, but your typical sort of rainbow-breathing gay caricature that Christians think of when they think of gay people. And they do exist. A lot of them. But I tend to be very personal about most things in life. I do have respect for the golden rules of religion and politics have no place in the workplace or among mixed company. That's part of how I was raised, and it's just something I have come to adopt in my own life. If you don't fuck with me, I won't fuck with you. So I think she kind of got to see, hey, these gay people aren't so bad, and it kind of went from there.
So she wasn't gay?
No.
I should say that she wasn't gay. She didn't realize she was gay.
No, I think
or is she bi?
She would probably call herself that, yes, just for the sake of being, like, super accurate to cover all the bases, I guess.
Well, yeah, I'm just asking.
No, absolutely, yeah. And when I met her, she wouldn't have ever said that. She was heavily, sort of, in her own way, kind of homophobic. Yeah, really interesting relationship. By my way of being, that kind of allowed her to explore more of herself because she was comfortable. She wasn't being bombarded. And yes, while we were friends, we had some knockdown, drag-out fights over these things. Not too often, though, obviously, or she wouldn't have been my friend, and I wouldn't have been her friend. But we came to have sort of a mutual armistice and sort of decided to leave certain things alone, and then from there, that kind of opened up a conversation for us later on down the road. It was a respect thing, so everybody's different, right? So for the whole atheist thing, though, sorry, I kind of got deviated from that.
Well,
but
you don't have to be sorry. It's all about you.
So she actually asked me one day, we were sitting watching TV or something when we were still friends, and she was like, so do you believe in God? And I'm like, no. And at that point, for her, atheist was like a total bad word, right? She wasn't even going to insult me with that term by calling me that. I had to kind of tell her, yeah, and this is when I was kind of confident about the word atheism anyway, but I kind of had to explain, I learned a lot through explaining to her that that's not a bad word. So now she's more understanding of what that position is.
Yeah, when I first realized I was an atheist, I just would tell people, well, I don't believe in God. I don't feel like I'm anti, Greek mythology. But I
Yeah.
also, because I didn't understand, me 6 months to kind of feel like comfortable, like you said, with the word, because it's got such a stigma. I was like, it's funny now because I love the word.
Yeah, it's a process for me. Technically, have I been an atheist 90% of my life? Yeah. Did I always feel comfortable with some of the baggage that I felt came with that term? No, but we need boxes in some cases in order to make things understandable for people. And like you said, just because I'm an atheist doesn't mean I'm the same kind of atheist as someone else.
Yeah.
So I don't have to take all that person's baggage. We as atheists don't have a bully book, so we don't have to adhere to guidelines.
Yeah, because if they did, I would be breaking a lot of them anyway. So.
Yeah, so.
I know a lot of atheists will say something. I'm like, yeah, that's not how I really see it. Nope. Mm-mm.
Yeah, and that comes up a lot. I mean, we had one girl come to one of the last get-togethers we were having at a restaurant, and she had never been there before, I guess, and she ended up kind of being surprised that we weren't all anti-GMO. It was kind of shocking to her, like, but that's a liberal cause type of, and it's like, well, we can't be all so pigeonholed like that, and, like I said, with me, I don't tend to always view issues through that sort of lens of, well, gee, what would other people that are like this on this issue feel like, or what would people that I like think about this issue?
I totally agree. Like I said at the beginning, I'm an anarchist, right? A socialist anarchist, or basically a mutualist is the actual thing I am. But beside, I'm a few other things. But it's so funny because I'll have people that are anarchists tell me I'm not being a right anarchist, and I'm like, I thought anarchist was no one tells me what the fuck to do, and yet you're gonna tell me I need to be this certain way? You're contradicting yourself.
Yeah, I mean, even among anarchists, there should be an understanding that there are several different schools of thought on that.
I'm like, I'm just saying, it's funny how people, think they can tell you, like they'll say, don't follow any rules, but here's ours.
Well, yeah, and that's why I tend to, though I associate myself much, much more in line with a sort of liberal ideology, that doesn't mean that I agree on every single aspect of a hardline doctrine.
Yeah, well, I know I call myself liberal. I have no problem with that, but I'm not a Democrat because I feel like they're not leftist enough for me.
Yeah, and whereas in some instances I'm much more comfortable with the Democratic Party than I am with individual liberals, in the sense of the whole science denialism. That's not the whole science denial.
Oh, I hate science denial, so fuck that.
Right. So, yeah.
Fuck that.
Yeah,
in fact, if science could prove I wasn't here, I would believe that and not believe I'm here. I mean, I'm not saying I'm for scientism, but I mean, I'm for accepting that science is one of the best, not the only, but one of the best methods for finding out what's true.
Yeah, and it's certainly the one that has the most, the largest history of being less. It's less partial than a lot of other systems because of the peer review process. It's one of the only, if not the only, major unbiased sources that we can listen to. Scientists are so different and so opposite of each other in some ways. That stuff doesn't come up a lot, You'll have Republican scientists, Democratic scientists, nothing, independent, whatever you want to call it, and Republican scientists believe in climate change too. So
yeah,
they're not ideologues.
Not as much. It's not that I wouldn't say there's none, but.
Well, it's not that there are none, but you tend to not have a job for a whole a long time if you tend to be an ideologue scientist, that they don't fit in well with what it is to be a scientist, according to most scientists that I've heard speak on this. So they're like herding cats.
Yeah.
And
I'm for progressive values in general. As a mutualist, I believe that we should be helping each other and we should be trying for the common good, and all progressive change towards more support for people and more rights and more ways of making this life more livable is better.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm 99% there with you. So, but then again, you have to remember too, of course, that some fringe-minded people aren't necessarily furthering the goal of progressivism by being science deniers. That's not a part of progressivism.
Yeah. Well, I know some of them. I agree with you. There's a lot of people that are liberal that are science deniers, or they're woo pushers. I mean, some of them won't accept a full religion, but they certainly, like you said, spiritualism and all that. I mean, to me, spiritual. When I first became an atheist, I used to call myself a spiritual atheist, but just one, because I didn't understand the word, and two, is I was just trying to say ethical. Or I was trying to say that I saw meaning in the world and that there's a reason for us to care. Basically now I just understand that as axiology.
Yeah.
Axiology means value.
It's unicorny of a word, right? But it is more accurate.
It's extremely accurate, because in fact I told people that I was trying to, because I said I'm a spiritual, like the first maybe 6 months or a year, I don't know exactly, but I was an atheist. And people would say stuff, and I ended up joining two groups that people call themselves spiritual atheists. But they kept saying things that was like science woo and all this, and I'm like, I'm not saying that. I mean. Yeah,
and you have to be really careful with that stuff, because I mean it's just pervasive. Some of the most cruel people to atheists and atheism are liberals. They will shit on you as quick as a conservative will.
Right, and that's even like Sam Harris has put out a book before, about atheism or about morality, and they don't call him a guru or whatever, but he puts out this new book. I'm not trying to dog on Sam Harris. I'm just making a point that they put out his new book that's like about atheist spirituality or whatever. Now someone said that he's some leader or guru. And that is exactly what I'm talking about. Is as soon as you use the word spiritual, then people can put you in this position where they sacralize you. Somehow you're like special, or it's like.
And I'm almost positive that Sam Harris would absolutely reject that. People saying that he's a guru, or you know what I mean. I don't think that he would be hip to that.
Well, he said he doesn't. No, I've heard a video where they talked to him about it, and he says, "Well, I don't really think so, but people want to say that."
Well, yeah,
and I'm just making. I'm not even talking about the book of the thing. I'm just saying a point. As soon as you bring up spiritual, you enter that woo where people start sacralizing, and starts to be something. So I'm just saying, for me, I do not use the word spiritual. It has no meaning.
And I think what he's trying to do with that, and the interpretation that people have, are probably two completely separate things. People place.
Oh no, yeah, I'm not saying that I haven't read the book, so I wouldn't judge it on that anyways.
Yeah,
but I wasn't saying that his book is pushing that. I'm just saying
people
that once you add the word spiritual, it changes everything. It becomes woo. It's like instant. It's like fucking instant code of woo.
Yeah, because you can just then go and attack the term and the phraseology and go, but what is spiritual? You cannot demonstrate to me something that is spiritual. Everything is in the natural realm that you can, go out and demonstrate. So.
Oh no, it's the quantum physics. You don't understand. There's energy fields, and humans are all energy. No,
you and I know that all of that is usually a grain of truth within a giant mass of bullshit.
Yes.
And it's also all that is religion, spirituality, all that is just saying, I'm afraid of dying. I'm afraid to die.
Yeah, I would say it's a fear in general, because it's not even. I agree that a lot of it's dying. It's not. It's fear.
Not exclusive.
I agree. Because it's fear and control. It's fear and then wanting to have something to control fear. Because it's not even just dying. If I worry about my child getting sick, or if I worry about getting a job, or if I they pray for the Super Bowl, I'm just saying it's a control issue. You need to control, and you don't have control, and you feel like you have this one magical way that you can possibly gain control. Well, here's the clue: you don't have control. You never have, and you never will. No prayer, no magical thing. And I agree with you. They take stuff that what they do is they say stuff like, "Oh well, there's no truths to the world." What? Or I hear people all the time say the thing I really hate, even atheists. Science never proves anything. It just disproves.
Oh, man.
It's like science doesn't prove anything, so we're not on the Earth right now, and there's not human beings with intelligence.
Here's what I hear a lot of, and I heard it at a raft meeting. And I don't know if you're familiar with who Kathy is within the raft community. She's an older woman, and she was a biologist.
No.
She's really cool, but
there's a lot of people I don't remember.
Yeah, she might not have been around. She actually took down some other lady who was claiming, like, oh, well, science is all just opinions anyway. It's like, I think you're misunderstanding what the fuck are you even saying?
Right, and then I hear some of them say that if it can't be falsified, it's not, not science. This is also false.
We talked
about that
last time, that whole not being able to prove a negative thing. What I really meant by that, like you were saying, is that it's just really, really hard.
I agree. That's another issue about not proving a negative. That's also false.
Yeah.
There's no logician
Yeah.
that will agree. None. Zero. That will agree you can't prove a negative. But that's not the point I was making. I was talking about falsification as a scientific theory by Karl Popper, a philosopher of science. Pretty smart guy, but also to come up with some weird beliefs too. He believed evolution wasn't really true. So I mean, the guy has some good ideas and also a little bit of So certainly, I mean, he eventually.
This is why we don't have gurus.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so science doesn't need gurus. So he's smart. He's a philosopher of science. He's a smart guy. He's considered one of, like, I don't know, three smartest person or five or something. He's pretty smart. He's really, but also that he said stuff that was stupid. So I'm just saying, falsification, if that's true, then we can't prove the sun, it has hydrogen. We cannot prove anything we can't test. So that would mean a lot of things about the world, including, some stuff like he debunked evolution, because if you can't really test it, it's just, theories. So but it's false. I'm not saying he's correct. I'm saying that when atheists or even believers say that, so if you can't falsify it, then it's not science. So I hear atheists say that. I hear agnostics say, oh, well, see, you can't prove there's no God because you can't falsify a theory. Science does not use, it's not that it never uses falsification, it's just that's not the only thing it uses. And when it...
Right. Well, and the burden of proof doesn't lie on us anyway.
Yeah.
The burden of proof is on them, they're making the claim. So, just like...
Exactly.
When you overwhelmingly try to claim that GMO is not safe, the burden of proof then rests on you.
Exactly. That's like this one Christian tried to tell me, oh, well, how do you know you're not, a brain in a vat or in the Matrix? And I said, see, you don't get that the burden of proof is now on you. You just made a claim. I don't have to debunk any claim you can invent off the top of your head without evidence.
Right. I mean, for the longest time, the burden of proof was on climate science to prove climate change. Now the burden of proof is on the skeptic to prove that that is not true because it is now a scientific consensus.
Right. You mean pseudo-skeptic. That's not a real skeptic.
Right. Yes. Pseudo-skeptic. Well, someone who, by definition, someone who is skeptical of the consensus. Yes, it is pseudo-skepticism, but
Well, what I was saying is that if it's a skepticism that follows science, in other words, there's two kinds of there's a lot of skepticism, but there's two main kinds of original skepticism. One is called philosophic skepticism, which either doubts evidence until it's proven, which then they couldn't be a science denier until it's proven, or one that believes there's no such thing as knowledge in general, and no such thing as truth. It actually almost can go to the point of denying reality. They're the ones that try to say, well, how do you know you're not a brain of bat?
They're the hard solipsists, yeah.
Right, yeah. So then there's the scientific skepticism, which is basically almost a branch of inquiry. Most people that usually say they're a skeptic are saying they're a scientific skeptic.
Right.
And skepticism in that sense is actually used in the scientific method. Scientific method is basically rationalism, empiricism, and skepticism.
Yeah.
They use those in unison along with other stuff to basically test and verify that things are true. So that's not denying science, because if it's used in the scientific method, it cannot deny science that it proves.
Right.
So that's why I say that it's actually pseudo, skepticism.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. But like I was saying, the burden of proof sometimes will shift as a consensus. Like I said before, climate science was once they once bore the burden of proof to demonstrate that this was happening.
Right.
And now the burden of proof has shifted, just like with GMO and vaccines. The burden of proof is now shifted to those trying to claim it's inherently dangerous or inherently wrong.
I agree.
And good luck to them.
Yeah.
As it stands right now, you have to come to an agreement on those three subjects, or or nothing. You can't. I accept the scientific consensus on global climate change, but I reject the scientific consensus on GMO. And I think it also comes from a fundamental misunderstanding of the studies and who they're, whether or not there are studies. Many people, activists on the opposite end, being anti-GMO, will say that, well, there are no independent studies. They're all paid for by Monsanto. Not true, by the way, but that doesn't matter to them.
Well, right, because that also would be a logical fallacy. Even if Monsanto did pay for all of them, that doesn't mean that the studies themselves are actually incorrect.
Right. I would say there's a reason to question if it were every single, right? But
right. I agree. Like I said about pseudo-skepticism, the reason it's pseudo-skepticism is because it's already been proved to be real over and over and over and over and over again. So. Yeah. Well, the problem is, it's not wrong for them to say, I feel that, and go look for information. But when you say all the evidence given is false, that's when it's pseudo-skepticism.
Yeah.
So in other words, it's not like there's nothing. We have a mountain of evidence they're denying. So once they deny that evidence, so that's when it's not real skepticism.
Yep. That's when that comes into play. The things I've seen, though, I mean, like the whole thing I was telling you about the rice. Well, I don't eat rice.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay.
But it's so funny, like you said, that's actually a fallacy, because if you don't need rice, then why are you fighting against yellow rice? Then you should have you shouldn't care if the world makes GMO rice, because I thought you just said you don't care. It's called the law of non-contradiction. Either it only can be one thing is true.
Yeah. It's just a mess. It's a real mess. And though we're all capable of, maybe in some sense of the word, making a claim that's not, like for example, I'm not an expert on it. I'm by no stretch of the imagination a GMO expert. But I know enough to know how to search for the people that do know what they're talking about. Finding more unbiased sources, reference to studies, and things of that nature. It's not impossible. Yes, it is hard, but no, it's not impossible to do. And I would like to impart that on people, that you can do it.
So you're definitely an online activists. Have you ever thought about doing something else, other kind of activism about this? Like maybe you could do a presentation at RAF.
Yeah, I was thinking that because I've become one of the strong three or four people in the group that really kind of pushes this type of thinking, and which the group leadership really appreciates because they're with me on that. Lucky in that. There are a lot of people there. I imagine that there are a lot of people there that are on the fence. So
they need you then.
Yeah. They need. They need us. Okay, put the puppet back on. They need us. Get out of here.
See, aren't I one of those terrible atheists?
Yeah, you're a real asshole.
Yeah.
Be proud of it.
Yep.
I want to get a shirt that says I'm an asshole. No. Everybody would believe it.
Yeah, because I think that I know me and John have both said that you do a lot, and we appreciate your energy. So I have the strong beliefs. Believe me, I hate arguing. If I talk to someone and I hear that they're not listening, I'm like bored. But I appreciate someone like you who seems to keep talking to them, because I know somebody needs to.
Well, and it's something where I've kind of had to weigh in my life with, is it causing me any kind of undue stress to be messing with idiots, or is it, I don't want to call them that. The fence sitters, I certainly wouldn't call that. They're asking legitimate questions. They're looking for a legitimate answer. But the people that just want to argue and appeal to a bunch of different logical fallacies, that's counterproductive. And I learned, actually, I went to a talk, the last raft event I went to last weekend was a talk that Dr. Donald Prothero gave. He's actually a leading paleontologist, as well as he does climate science work. He's really cool. People should look him up. He mentioned that he has stopped doing those things, the whole arguing online with people, because it's not productive. It's not going to get him anywhere. But like you, he said that the people you need to reach are the ones that don't know.
Yeah.
The ones that don't know how they feel. It's the same with Christians. You have no business really arguing with a fundamentalist because you're just going to piss yourself off. The people that want to come up to you if you're holding a sign or saying something and that want to ask you a question, discourse is very important. Like I said earlier, you have to measure how you're going to speak to people. I think that's important because I can have kind of a short fuse. But if someone's coming to me in earnest and asking a question, I'll explain it. As you kind of see, and what I said to you last time we spoke was that I appreciate that on your page on HARP. You call it HARP or HARP?
HARP. It's Humanism, Atheism, Rationalism, Philosophy.
So what you do on HARP, I really appreciate, because you kind of moderate, but not really. You're not super active in, oh, I'm going to get in on every point. You kind of let people go back and forth. So I appreciate that about your page, and that's one of the reasons why I like it.
Yeah, although I do say stuff like when someone were to say something like, we want to kill Christians or something, I don't let that kind of stuff go.
No.
And if someone were to say something that was seriously anti-science, I definitely say something. Or if someone were to say, something, anti-gay, I definitely. I agree with you. I let people say things, but I also tell people, look, this is the kind of group it is, and I won't accept certain kind of behaviors.
Yeah, that's what real moderation is all about. When you have a page like that, you don't want to insert yourself too much into all the, back and forth banter and dialogue, but yeah, you want to keep things the way that they need to be. I mean, we talked about this with Raft, for example. There was a Raft member that, I don't know if you saw this conversation, but John posted a photo, a meme of that smug-looking hippie lady with the dreads. She's always got that. So the meme was like, I accept climate change, but I believe in acupuncture and crystal healing and stuff.
Right.
And someone who's apparently a long-standing member of the group actually decided to leave over that, because we were all having a very respectful conversation, about, can you show me your sources on why you believe in that? Well, it works for me, so you guys are all assholes and I'm leaving. And it's like, okay, I can see where someone might get pushed to leave, but that was not one of those situations, so it kind of devolved really quickly, and someone was like really pissed off and acted like their Cheerios were pissed in and decided that they didn't want to be a part of Raft anymore. And some of the leadership of Raft was kind of like, well, that's not the type of stuff we want in here anyway. Not to be an asshole, but we're not trying to force people out. We want a discourse, but you can't come in here and claim all kinds of woo, and someone's going to be adversely affected by that by trying to go seek that out. Maybe they're going to say, oh, well, acupuncture works. Look, it worked for this person.
Yeah, speaking of that, on HARP, I don't allow people to post things that are positive for religion. If they post it, I fucking delete it.
Yeah.
And I tell them that this is an anti-religionist group, and if you post it again, or if they post some stuff that's science woo, I'll delete it. I won't. If they say something like, hey, I hate Monsanto, I just delete it until look, you post it again, you're gonna be out. This is a rationalism group, and we do not allow that kind of stuff in here. That is not rationalism.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you know what I definitely don't want to project an image of, oh, poor Monsanto, poor, multi-billion-dollar Monsanto, right? But I always kind of thought it was funny that Monsanto actually received a 100% rating from, I believe it's the Human Rights Campaign, for being a top corporation to work at if you're an LGBT person. I don't know if you've seen it.
No, I didn't know. I don't get it because I like I said, I just feel the other way. I keep hearing, remember, like you said, evil and the worst company in the world, and I'm like, what the fuck? I mean, you think these people roast babies? What the fuck? I mean,
I don't.
I'm like, if you tell me the Koch brothers,
yeah,
are not good people, you can show some evidence that may be, legitimate, but none of that has to do with Monsanto. So
I don't want to I'm not going to get into the whole, well, they make money, so they must be inherently evil. No, maybe they're just playing the game real well, and maybe you wish you could play the game that well in some respects with people that are so anti-corporatist, and they're like, don't get me wrong, I'm not Mitt Romney, but your corporations are people.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm not either, because I'm actually think that corporations do, weasel their way into being harmed, because I believe that the minimum wage should be $25 an hour. Period. I don't even give a shit, and I don't want to hear no bull crap. It's fucking. But that's part of. And just like to me, some companies should be paying a lot more money. Like, do you know what's crazy? Speaking of, not to go off a tangent, but about corporatism. But there's companies in the United States that pay zero taxes. Zero. That shit has got to stop.
I believe GE is one of those companies.
Yeah, it's freaking ridiculous. Just like another thing, they talk about cheap wages. Do you know that a lot of companies actually get people in prison to work for like 20 cents an hour and make products? To me, that is fucking slave labor. Yeah. That should be illegal.
Yeah. I mean, at least give them some kind of wage that they can put away for after they go to prison, when obviously they can't find jobs. So, I mean, give them something so that if they put it away.
That's true too. But I was actually saying, I don't care if we do it so that they're cleaning the city. But when a private company with private money is utilizing a slave wage in America, I find that to be offensive.
Yeah, exactly. Like Arizona jeans are made by prisoners. They're crap too, by the way, but they're no Levi's.
So I'm gonna ask Sam if he wants to ask you a question.
Okay.
Oops. No, I don't really have any questions. You do a really good job in asking questions.
Okay, well, but you don't have any thing to say about her, or
well, she's very interesting, I've got to say, and I agree with a lot of what she says. Especially with the homosexuality. I'm a homosexual too, so I understand what can I say, the abuse of what we get for being a homosexual.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
since you have a personal experience, I don't personal experience in that. Could you ask her a question that you think someone who's homosexual may be interested in, or?
Well, let me think about that. I would guess, how does her family feel about her homosexuality? And how does she deal with her Bible-thumping family?
Oh, are you talking about my partner's family?
No, your family.
Oh, my family's actually not religious. Did you say Bible thumping? I thought I heard Bible thumping.
Well, okay, well, even with that, I've even found atheists that are against homosexuals.
Oh yeah, it's more personal, but yeah, that happens. My mom, like I said, is just kind of uh, sort of thinks it's a phase. She's kind of mildly, I guess you could call that, on the spectrum of abuse. It's very mild. I don't face any real adversity in the family. And as for the rest of my family, I have other gay family members. My dad is very accepting. It's not a situation to complain about whatsoever.
Well, that's good to hear. I have very little family, so I don't have to worry about that myself.
Yeah.
You know.
But you also have a personal experience where you were dating a man who was Christian, even after.
Go ahead.
So I was saying, that in a sense, you relate to her on that level, that she's also dating a Christian.
Yeah, very much so. He was a Christian and was a Christian for many years, you know, and it was we was together almost 24 years. The last 16 of those years, I was an atheist. And we had disagreements, I have to admit, but overall, you know, he could never answer my hard questions about his God, and that really was the main thing.
Yeah.
So you were able to be that together that long with someone who's a believer? Do you have advice for her on how to manage that? That would be kind of hard for me, but since you did it, how did you manage that?
I managed it by thinking that, to me, he was a victim. Just like most Christians, he is a victim of religion. You know, because he was brainwashed into this from the day he was born. You know, so for him to get away from this is very, very hard. So I would say just be open-minded and understanding that they may believe this way, but it's because they was brainwashed at such a young age. And fear has a lot to do with giving up this belief.
Yeah. I think that there are also a lot of people that weren't raised that way. I mean, you can always argue that there are religious people that go to religion and weren't raised that way. She's not one of those people, of course. She was raised that way, like heavily Pentecostal family. Her grandfather was president of the Assembly of God during like the 80s. So serious brainwashing, yeah. But I don't tend to think of it that way, just in terms of it makes her happy and she's a good person. I don't really go there with her. It's one of those types of situations.
Yeah, now I agree. We didn't discuss it a lot because of that. His beliefs and my beliefs were so different.
Yeah. It's not personally justifiable to me as a gay person, of course, you know. Certainly not compatible with the Christian, with the Bible, first of all. So why anyone would want to have that sort of Uncle Tom relationship with religion, I don't understand. But
I never could understand that. I never could understand how you could be gay and believe and be a Christian. It just never made any sense to me.
Yeah, it's not super logical or rational, but it's one of those things for people that is just so deeply ingrained. It's just what they believe, and they don't ever really question it, I don't think.
Yeah, that's me. Anytime I've ever asked him real serious questions, his only answer, of course, which most Christians are, you just have to have faith. And I'm sorry, I just can't have faith. I just can't. Show me evidence and I'll believe. But until then, I can't have faith.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. I see what you're saying. I don't believe in faith as a concept. So I believe the exact faith is the purposeful suspension of rational and critical thinking. So, not for me.
Yeah, I always tell people that faith as an acquisition of knowledge is not worth believing in.
Exactly.
That is very poignant.
Because that's what they're really trying to do. Because faith is not hope, it's not belief. It's basically saying, they say, I believe because I have faith. What they're saying is, I believe because faith is evidence.
And an intellectually honest Christian will actually tell you, well, I don't know, I just have faith. And as stupid as that is, as counterintuitive as that is to logic, I can at least appreciate that because they're not saying that they know. So I appreciate it a little bit more.
Well, that's good. Thank you for saying something, Sam.
Oh, thank you, and it was for asking me. It was a wonderful interview.
Nice to meet you, Sam.
It was nice to meet you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, everybody. That's it. It was, unless you have something else you wanted to bring up or say.
I think it's pretty expansive, and I don't want anyone to see it and go, oh my gosh, it's 5 hours long. So I think we had a really productive conversation. And, thank you so much for picking me as a guest. And great.
And thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Damien.
See, and now you know me a little more, right?
Yes, I do.
You're like, now I hate you.
Hey, now you gotta convince Jen to get on here next.
I already asked.
Okay.
She turned me down and said there's some other time.
Okay.
So she was going to do it. And then
I'm gonna ask her about it.
Do it. Sounds great.
If you want the real GMO expert, who's even more versed than I am, so.
Oh, she's got a lot of great things to say. I think Jen is amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
But thank you so much, Damien.
All right. Bye.
Okay, bye.